Hey y'all, time for another tutorial, I guess is what I'm doing. I'm gonna teach you something new. This is my lawnmower and the deck rusted out. I don't know how well you can see that. It has grass all over the top of it because the last time I used it, the holes that I hadn't really been paying attention to were spitting grass all over the top of it. You can see it's got some pretty good sized holes in it. On top of that, that bearing on this side gave out. Now I'd replaced the bearing last week, put it together, and then kind of did a test run of it. And I was going to do the deck repair, the welding the patches back in, once I made sure that I had the bearings and everything set up right. And then I found out I put one of the pieces to the bearing in the wrong spot, and I'll show you that while I'm at it, so that you can kind of pay attention to what you're doing when you take it apart and put it back together. I'll also give you a couple of tips along the way, and hopefully I can give you some information that's useful. Now, as you can see, it's pretty filthy, and I got some pretty good sized holes in the deck. There's some massive areas of leaking grass, which of course leads to all the extra grass. Now, I knew it had a hole in the deck last year. I didn't fix it, which led to it having bigger holes, by the way. As the grass builds up, it holds water. It holding water sped the rust up. Don't do that. I'm going to start by cleaning this monstrosity up. With that mostly cleaned up, obviously there's going to be some hanger-ons that I'll be cleaning up as I go along. I'm not too concerned about making it spotless because most of this is going to get cut out. The rust goes way back, so I need to cut it back a little ways so that it doesn't continue to rust out. But you can see how big a hole that is. I mean, luckily that's still mounted to something, but that whole other side isn't supported. Now the other issue I have, that mounts to one of the spots that's rusted out. So it's pretty rusty and pretty loose. So that would be something you would normally have to fix. Mine is actually solid enough that I don't have to stress it. It didn't actually rust out around it. I'll have to take it off and weld the spots underneath it anyway. But the mount itself is pretty solid. Originally I was going to show you how to do that, and I will explain how to do it, even though I don't actually have to do it. The other thing that I mentioned is this side. So this is loose because there's actually a spacer that's supposed to be on the bottom that I put on top. So I'm going to have to take that back apart and put it right. But since I'm going to have most of this apart to do the welding anyway, I might as well get it done at the same time. Now, I'm not doing a video of how I'm taking it apart because unfortunately there's about 9 bazillion different types of riding mowers out there. None of them come apart the same way. If you've got a Simplicity Regent, that's what that is. I can show you how to do that, but unless you're doing a Simplicity Regent, it's not really going to change anything. The bearings, bolts, pretty simple to figure out. Take the pulley off the top, take the blade off the bottom, put them back the way that they came off on the new pulley. Pretty simple. So I'm not going to show you how I take this one apart, but I will be giving you tips on how to figure out the rest of it, if that's something you have to do. Now, when you're checking for where the rust stops on these chipping hammers are great because they got a point on the end, and they're good for spring. They're good for finding out how far out the rust goes, so that you can mark it and be able to do the actual repair. I don't know enough about metallurgy to be able to say whether or not if I leave any rust it's going to continue to rust. I don't know. I would love to say I do, but I'm not that smart. Instead, I'm going to cut out all the bad stuff, and then I'll weld a new one on. Now, one of the other reasons behind that is you can't weld to rust. It doesn't work very well. So it's good to cut the old rust out so that you've got clean metal to weld back to. Also, one of the things that I said I was going to show you how to do, that hole that it mounts to, which is actually rusted out, I should probably replace it. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. Now, to figure out where that hole goes, once you cut it out to replace it with a new piece, how you going to do that? Well, that's the trick I'm going to show you. Okay, so here's the deal. If you have family members like mine, they borrow stuff. And maybe you don't know where it is. Then you got to go find it. So that took me a minute. Okay, trick time. So here's the thing. What you will need is a tape measure and a Sharpie. Now, I'm going to use span calipers because I want to make it a little more accurate. You don't have to use these. Anywhere within a 1/4 inch is going to work just fine. I'm going to show you how to do it anyway. Here's your measurements. Sorry, I'm sweaty. It's hot out here. As long as your measurements are the same, then they will intersect at one point and one point only. They won't intersect anywhere else. All 3 lines will intersect at one point, and that will be the center of where your hole goes. So I'm going to measure from the dead center of that as close as I possibly can to this dot. And that is, I'm going to use the sharper side here. That is 4.5 to the center. And I'll write it down. Make sure to write it down, because if you don't and try to remember it, you'll forget and the hole will be in some goddamn place else. Same thing with the hole to this dot. I'm going to go from the center as close as I can to that dot. And that happens to be 3.5 inches. And then I'm going to go from the hole, the center of the hole, to that dot. And this one is 4 13/16. Now I can double check this with my caliper. I did it without the caliper because I know most people aren't going to have that. I got an entire set of vernier calipers that happened to come with it, and I don't use it very often, so I'm going to play with it. So to do that, you're going to take your caliper set and run it out. And this is going to take, just shy of a decade because I don't use it very often. And you're going to want to go from the center to that dot. So from that dot, tighten it down until you get right to the center of that as close as you possibly can. And then you measure point to point. 3.5. I can do the same thing with this one. So that dot to the center of that is 4 13/16. I don't know if you can see that on the tape measure, but that's where it goes to. And then on this one, last one, we'll tighten her in until we get right to the center. And that will give us, ooh, that's actually 4.5. I would have been off. Or 4 5/8. So let me double check that. Center of that to the center of that. Yeah. And that is 4 5/8. It's a good thing I double checked that, or I'd have been in the wrong spot. Okay, now you're probably thinking, great, you got measurements. What do you do with them? If you know, don't give it away. There are people here trying to learn. But if you don't know, I'm going to show you how you figure that out. So here on my temporary workbench, I've done kind of a small mock-up. I got it out here, I got it out here, I got it out here. They're pretty similar to the ones that I got on the deck. So I've got this at 3.5. Okay. 3.5. And here's my dot for my 3.5. You know, that one up there, that one over there, that one over there. That one's 3.5. So I take that, and I take my Sharpie, and I'm gonna make a little arc. Can you see that? Can you see the arc? This one is 4 13/16. Four and 13/16. So this dot, which is where the 4 13/16 is at, again, put that on the end of that, and we'll make a mark. And then our last one was 4 5/8. So there's the dot for 4 5/8. So we put that there, and again, put the mark on it. You can see the little mark for that. Now if you notice, what you have now is a cross intersection. This mark, this line, this mark, this line, this mark, this line. They all intersect at one point. That tells you where that hole's going to be. I'm going to show you, oh good lord, my hair is a mess. I'm not going to show you me cutting the chunks out. I'll show you the finished product when I'm done, because I want to make sure that all of my sides I buffer out with a buffing wheel so that I've got nice clean metal. But I need to cut out the bad stuff first. I'm not going to show you that, because who really wants to watch somebody with a grinder? Before any of you come at me, yes, I was using my proper safety squints with cutting. And let's be honest, I'm a fat man, so I've set fire to too many shirts. I do have a welding apron that I use. It helps keep your clothes from getting tore up by the sparks. They're pretty cheap at Harbor Freight. Just pick one up, save yourself some effort. And by the way, I'm kidding. Yes, I have safety glasses. This, by the way, is exactly why you don't want to use safety squints. You want to use actual safety glasses, because if that had come apart without something covering my face, that would have hurt. So, cutting in as tight as I can get, and I will clean up the rest of it with a wire brush so that I've got a nice place to do some welds. I've got most of the rust cut out. I couldn't do this area right here simply because that's a brace under there, and I can't cut that out. I mean, I probably could, but what I'll do is I'll wire brush the hell out of it and probably hit it with a sandblaster to clean it up a little bit. Not everybody's got a sandblaster. Just do the best you can. When it comes down to the end of the day, I'm probably only going to get a couple more years out of this mower, so any repair is better than nothing. I'm just trying to do it as good as possible so that I've got something that lasts a little longer if it sticks around. I also have to cut out the pieces for it. I didn't swing by Harbor Freight or Home Depot or any place to pick up some sheet metal on my way home from work. And I live in a little town in the middle of nowhere, so I can't just go buy sheet metal. But what I do have is this old Kubota hood, which is about the same color. So at least the colors will be pretty close. And I already have it. I'm not using it for anything. The Kubota died. So I'm going to cut the pieces out of that. Save myself a little bit of painting, because the only paint I think I've got is black. And the patches are going to show up pretty starkly with the black. But I want to paint them so that it doesn't rust. The next question that comes up is, okay, I got them cut out. How do I match those pieces? That's when this comes in. So, to do this layout, easiest way to do it is just put your piece down and kind of press in around the edges of it. I'm trying to do this with one hand. And that gives me a rough outline of my hole. The one on the mower. So, now I got on my printouts. What I did was, after I was done and I had the paint line from pushing it in, I went over the top of it with the Sharpie again, so I had my actual outlines. This one, of course, matches this one. Cut out piece. And the same for all the rest of them. Now what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll mark them about a half hour or half inch to a quarter inch to a half inch bigger than the hole. And then I'll buff off the exterior area so I've got a nice clean place, because it doesn't need to be flush. It's not body work, it's just a mower deck. So I'll lap it over the top. Now you can cut it exactly to size, fit it inside the hole, use magnets to hold it in place, and then weld it. The next thing is, once I get everything cut out, I'll start putting the pieces back in and kind of show you another trick on how to do that when you're doing the welding. And there's the pieces that I've got cut to go in and tap up. Now I've got some areas that are sticking out. I've got some hammers that I'll use to bend over. This is a little tight, so I'm probably not going to bend it over. I'll probably just weld it across that lip there. Again, it's just to keep the grass off the deck. Same thing here. I'll have to fold it down around the edge. And this one here is pretty straightforward. The welder that I'm using, I happen to have a flaring 135D. Because this material is kind of thin, I'm using it at 50 amps. But I'm going to show you how to do it if you've only got a 90 amp, like if you buy it from Walmart or Harbor Freight or someplace like that. Got a 90 amp machine, it's going to blow out really fast. So if you try to do it at one shot, you'll just burn a hole straight through it. And that's not going to work. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack it, and I'll just follow up behind. One tack there, one tack there, one tack there, and then I'll go back there and I'll do another one behind that one. Then I'll do another one behind that one, and then I'll do another one behind that one. And I'll just work my way around the entire thing until I have it welded up. I will do that on all the different pieces, and that keeps it from blowing out. Now, that's how you would do it if you've got a 90 amp welder and a 90 or a 70. Like if you got a Harbor Freight, I think you can swap it from 90 to 70. So I'm going to drop mine back down to about 65 so I can just run a straight bead. So I wasn't paying attention and didn't turn it down and went right back to welding. And guess what happened? It blew out. That's what happens if you try to do it as a straight shot with 90 amps. That's why you don't do that. That's why you do it in little spots so you don't blow out. Said and done. It's all welded up, and now I don't have any holes in my deck. I do have a bit of a splatter problem with my welder. I had the negative on backwards at one point. I had it running lead negative and ground was positive. And it splattered all over the place. So my welds aren't the greatest on some spots, but other spots they look great. And there it is, back in the mower, all patched up and ready to mow again. Yay! Okay, so that was the tutorial on how to kind of do the repairs on the mower deck. I'm all cleaned up now, changed up everything. Had some other things happen, and now I am where I am. If you're watching the video and you're going to pick on my welds, remember that I am licensed as a truck driver, not a welder. My welds are not the greatest. The last time I did any actual welding professionally was in 2005, so 20 years ago. And the material wasn't the greatest. So some of my welds came out great. Some of them would give my welding instructor heart palpitations if he looked at them. I hope he doesn't watch my video. So he might retroactively fail me for that class if he were to watch my welds in that video. So don't tell him. If you like these videos, check out the page. There's more videos. We talk about music and various other things. There's links in the description for you can give us support. I would love it if you'd like, follow, and subscribe. That'd be great. It would help us out, grow the channel, and let us know that people are actually interested in what we're putting out there. If you have questions or recommendations on something you would like to know, if we know anything about it, I would love to put it out there and help you guys learn how to do it. There's all kinds of stuff that I know how to do, but it doesn't always come right straight to mind. So hopefully you guys will come up with something and help me out.